Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Kreskin.
You're probably wondering what I'm doing out here, folks. Well, truth of the matter is, if I don't get killed by oncoming traffic, our studio audience doesn't know I'm out here. Sure, this is the top of the television series, The Amazing World of Kreskin. The reason I'm out here, furthermore, is I don't want them to know what... You're gonna have to forgive me, but it's been a long day. Even before the program, people rarely realize the amount of work that goes into preparing for a television show. And yet I don't want them to hear what I'm saying, because when I walk in, you watch the studio audience, don't watch me. Watch how contagious a yawn can be, let alone an itch. And that's what tonight's program deals with, the fact that we can be influenced without realizing it so subtly. You didn't think I really yawned out there accidentally and was caught, do you? Also, by the way, how many times did you yawn the past few seconds? Stay tuned. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Can you imagine in the business of show business and the art called entertainment to open a program by yawning is, I guess, is well nigh insane. But, you know, I have a book here. This is not a plug because I don't even know if this book is any longer available. But it was written by Leonard Nimoy, and the reason I bring it up, folks, is that Nimoy discusses me in it. A lot of my mail to the networks, both in England and in Canada and the States, has constantly compared me with Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock. They say I look like him. Do you feel that way, huh? It's a fascinating thing. And don't you know he has a chapter in here? And part of it deals with me, and he points out when he was playing at a place where he and I have worked many, many times, but I didn't know that he had worked there. It was in Coconut Grove Playhouse in Miami. Someone came up to him, asked him for an autograph. And if I can quote, he says, the person said to Nimoy, do you know who it is? You see him all the time on television. It's Kreskin. So what does Leonard Nimoy say? He says, I signed Kreskin on the piece of paper and shook hands with the two gentlemen and left. So my decision, with that being the case, folks, is that if Mr. Nimoy is going to call me Kreskin and sign my name to Kreskin because of our similarity, the next time someone asks me for an autograph, and if I know Leonard's nearby, I'm going to sign it, Mr. Spock. And I think we'll both get it. It's funny how we can become sensitive to so many, many things. You know, I feel a yawn is contagious, but so are other things quite contagious. It's an interesting thing. And I don't know how many people in the audience right at this moment might be a little bit curious viewing us. It's, you know, I'll tell you very, very honestly, it can become a very uncontrollable thing. And I think if I ever see anyone yawn, I have a friend whose mother or aunt, every time she yawns, people cannot resist the urge. She can't resist the urge to yawn, and we are told not to, in front of her, you know, ever yawn, let alone, my God, I would hate it if I had any other kind of problems, you know, which would deal with sensitivity or the texture of skin or what have you, or you know what you are. But listen, I hope that all of you, before we go to a commercial break, you may want to, during the commercial break, folks, take a bath. I don't know, but we will be back in about a minute or so. Thank you very, very much for joining us. It's remarkable when a person can cover and achieve stardom in every area of major and show business, such as the movies, the stage, and television. And how well I remember him from High Chaparral. Would you all welcome with me Mr. Cameron Mitchell, folks, please. Huh, Cameron? You do watch the show, I tell you. They're good people out there at this time of the year. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be with you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Cameron, does it happen to you, too, that you know, it's interesting that you yawn like that, and if you will look at the audience at this moment, they're doing it already. And how many of you in the audience find it's hard to resist a yawn when you see someone yawning? How many of you find that?
Look up there.
Yeah, up there, still, and you're
Also,
not...
you scratch your back.
Well, we won't go into that. Something about psychic surgery, Cameron.
It's all true. It's an amazing... It's a miracle. The man is a miracle. I have his picture here.
Now, we must admit something, because we've got to be very cautious about it, and you will understand that we're not trying to foster any medical changing of your back, whatever you're attending to, whatever your doctor feels is best for you. We're not trying to sell anything, but you've had an interesting experience. Is this a picture with him?
It's a picture of him.
What's his first name again?
His name is Alex Orbito.
Yeah. What is this book here?
It's his life story. I first met him... I had read in the L.A. Times, Tony Roche is a great tennis player, one of the greats of the world.
Yeah, I'm even
He went to
with
like
him.
21 doctors. He couldn't play anymore. He took a trip after an operation by this man with his bare hands, with his hands. And
Cameron,
also John Newcomb, by the way.
John Newcomb. Are you sure?
Oh, yes, of
Cameron?
course.
I mean,
I have a big story coming out in the Enquirer, very big. They called, and the reason I came to do your show, in addition to wanting to meet you, I've admired you for a long time,
Thank
and
you,
I really
Cameron.
am into what you're into. Because this man cannot help that he's a healer. The man is a healer. He's deeply religious. He prays. And I witnessed 31 operations before I permitted him to operate on me.
Now, I got to say something, Cameron. You do realize that psychic surgery, which became very popular in the Philippines, there was another one called Tony the Healer.
There's Tony Blanchet.
Yeah, that's not the one you're speaking of now.
No, this man is Alex Orbito.
Yeah. Do you know anything about, well, without going into details, you are aware that some of them were found to be fraudulent?
Yes, but believe me, this man is not a fraud.
And the reason it was found to be, we've got to just, though, in all fairness, because of continuity of shows and so forth, and it's, thank God, my program has never been censored. They have, given us the freedom to use our judgment, which I respect the network for. But some of them, what was found, Cameron, were always working with layers of the flesh where there were many folds, so that apparent organs could be pulled out of those layers by being put into them by sleight of hand. Can you tell me about, well, what is psychic surgery, as you know it? Explain it to our viewers.
The man has very delicate, tiny hands.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was pain. I had intense pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt 3 distinct cutting things, like with a knife,
Mm-hmm.
and it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't hurt long. It hurt for the operation, which took approximately, I'd say, 59 seconds.
Well, explain what psychic surgery is as they claim it, if you were given an example.
Psychic surgery is barehanded surgery. Like, for example, with Tony Roach, he opened his arm,
Mm-hmm.
elbow
Yeah.
here,
Right.
with the right hand.
Mm-hmm.
When he makes the opening, sometimes there's blood, and sometimes there's quite a bit of blood, but normally there isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Because evidently what happens, when you cut with a knife, you really butcher the cells.
Mm-hmm. There is a damage, yeah.
But evidently what he does, there are about 1,000 psychic healers. 5 are considered great, and he's considered the best, or one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
He evidently pushes the cells aside, and it's like a laser beam. For example, if he opens you here, or here, or here, he opens you with the right hand, and then the left hand keeps it open, and the right hand acts like some kind of magnet, and it pulls all the diseased tissue and blood and whatever is bad in your body into this hand, the right hand. He makes one pass with the left, and there's no scar.
You know, Cameron, the only thing is, a man by the name of Dr. Nolan, who wrote a book called Healing, attended some of these psychic surgery, and they got a hold of one of the organs that was supposed to be from a person, and it was not. It was from an animal.
Well,
do you feel that anything else could have caused your healing?
No.
What have doctors said to you?
I am in the best shape that I've been in 20 years.
What did they say when you came back and
Nobody believed me.
They didn't.
They don't believe me. But they cannot fight with John Newcomb and Tony Roach.
No,
These are very
I
big,
understand.
strong, important.
And it's a formidable thing to consider that these people were helped by some force, evidently.
Well, for example, here, this is, if you want to, if you'd like to, here's his face, by the way. This is the man. He's a very handsome man. And in fact, here he is on the cover. He was born of very poor people, but don't forget that Jesus was born in the manure of his stables, and he's deeply religious. He tells you to have faith and to pray. And when he begins to work, he does it in front of, well, like, for example, usually there are 100 people, 30 inside. His table could be like this. The first operation I saw was a 14-year-old boy. He had a growth here. He touched with the right hand. I couldn't believe it, because I'm like you. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I saw the blood. He rubbed. Within 35 seconds, the growth or whatever was growing in the throat was here, and he put it in the pan.
And the person became healed that fast?
That's right. Don Como is the head of International Television Production Company.
Right.
He's done a thing called Unknown Power. He has photographed a lot of these operations, and I saw 31 before I agreed to...
Well, listen, folks, it is certainly a formidable thing to discuss and to consider and to weigh the pros and cons of. And the beautiful thing about it is that Cameron is obviously discussing something with great sincerity because he had an extraordinary experience. We'll be back after the following message. Stay here, Cameron. Cameron? Cameron, are you fascinated from all your life, as I have been with, believe it or not, Ripley?
Constantly.
Sunday papers in color, you'd see all of these.
The first thing I looked at was Believe It or Not, because that was the whole topic for the kids in school that week.
Yeah, it was a discussion. It really became an international, spark of curiosity. And we have here the research director of Ripley International. He's really an authority on the subject of Ripley and the whole phenomena. And would you welcome Mr. Derek Copperthwaite? Derek? Cameron, how are you? Good to have you here.
I thought it was Peter O'Toole.
Yeah. Well, Derek, you gotta,
To be around such enthusiasm.
Oh, well, listen, Chris, I saw him in the newspapers, and I read Bob Considine's biography of Ripley, and then I wish I had the radio on when Ripley brought a man to this country who was a Pakistani, who then was in England, and he brought him to NBC in New York, and outside of the National Broadcasting Company, he had a man by the name of Cuda Bucks walk on fire in the 1930s, and there was... I
right in Rockefeller Center.
Rockefeller Center, and there was Ripley with his
The
radio
one I
mic.
remember was when Ripley, in his Believe It or Not, said that a woman had a baby at the age of 108. 109. So be careful.
And the baby, when it was born, was 18 years old. Derek, the best way to do this is the way all of us have opened to your column, because the imitations of it have always been like Son of Ripley's, which were never as good as the Son of Frankenstein's, the Son of Dracula's, or what have you. We see things here. Can you tell us what some of this stuff is? I'm curious.
Well, first of all, where am I going to show this?
Well, you hold it. They'll come. We got a
right.
great... If that's what I think it is, my gosh, maybe I'll never go to that island.
I thought it was Raquel Welch.
Well, this is a genuine...
Oh, no. Well, what is it, a genuine?
This is a genuine Ivaro shrunken head.
What was the area you said?
Ivaro from the Amazon, the upper Amazon.
It is really a shrunken head.
Kreskin, I've got to tell you that I'm one of your greatest admirers.
Well, thank you, Derek.
And
thank you.
Just to see how really good you are, I'd like you to read his mind.
Well, I'll tell you something. He had the last hours of his life, he didn't know whether he was going to heaven or well, but it was very hot. All I could tell. Listen, is this the tribe that practices this as a kind of religious rite, or because that is the belief, just as headhunters?
The owning of one or more of these heads is the same as, well, it would be the same as an American having the Medal of Honor.
And it's ensuring your destination in the future. How long does it take to shrink a head?
Several weeks. First, without getting too gruesome, the
no,
inside...
let's not. Yeah, we know about that.
Right. Well, then they're sewn up, and through a process of hot stones and hot sand, which gets into the crevices, they clean out the insides, and then they're putting in a pot of herbs and...
Do you know if it's at all similar to the way the mummies were done by the Egyptians?
Nobody knows.
No one knows.
What kind of jungle ingredients they put into the boiling pot, but when they come out, they come out that size.
What about some of these other pieces?
But I must say one thing. In Hollywood, you get a swell head like overnight.
Yeah, it's hard to get it down, too. Let's see. What are these, now?
Well, these...
Oh, my. Do you realize, folks, let me step over here. You got to see. You know, you need a point of perspective. With me, it will not look like these shoes are very large. But you look at folks, the size of the shoe. Look at what is the size of this, Derek?
That's 36D.
36D.
Those
now, was this worn by a human being or...
These were worn by Robert Wadlow.
Really?
He was the tallest man that has ever lived.
How tall was he?
Authenticated one, 8'11.1".
Oh my gosh!
And these were his shoes. He's a shoemaker.
I thought maybe it was Wilt Chamberlain.
Shoes.
He was a shoemaker?
No, the man that repaired his shoes, or did his shoes, custom-made shoes, had these for repair when he died, and that's how we came by them. They were in the family, the daughter of the shoemaker.
That's an interesting... How old was he when he died? You know, because the tall people may... do you have any idea offhand?
That was his height at...
How old was he? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
No. What are some of the... Now, that's interesting, because look at this, and look what we have here. If I can just take this, this is extraordinary... It wouldn't be Tom Thumb or anything like that. It is Tom Thumb? Because that's fascinating. Now... do you know when Tom Thumb died? Was he alive in
the... well, he was
P.T.
at the
Barnum
height of his
period.
fame in the 1830s.
Yeah, P.T. Barnum. Now, how small was he, and what's the size of this shoe?
Well, he wasn't the smallest man, but he was... When he died, he was about 36 inches. He started to grow a little in his later years.
36 inches. What is this over here?
This over here? That is a witch doctor's... human tooth necklace from New Guinea.
Where were the teeth taken from? The person who lost their head?
Yeah, I thought it was a dental plate, you know.
Oh, my God.
And this also is also a New Guinea piece. These are very, very rare pieces. This is made of, these are pig's tails. And
what are these right here?
Those are the pieces, the ends from the conch shell.
It looks like a rattlesnake. Is it a rattle? This?
No, this is small shells woven onto them.
Now, at one point, Ripley had visited
198.
98. It was 91 when I had read about his writings and had gone all over the world. And a man preceded him by the name of Charles Fort, who wrote a lot of books about strange happenings. But Ripley kind of saw a lot of these things, or looked into the things in person, didn't he?
He wanted to know what they looked like and where he
This is a scrapbook about him?
No, this scrapbook is... may I
There's
show
only
you this?
4 minutes to the end of the program. Derek, would you know, Cameron and you both have so much to tell us, and we have given more time in both cases that would ordinarily be the case, but I find, you know, in a believe it or not, that happened to him that you have to believe from his viewpoint. And believe it or not, Ripley, there are thousands of things. I can remember the story of the man that had a sequence to an order of a deck, and he was in a mental institution. And he shuffled the deck every day and dealt the cards, trying to see if the cards would ever go in that sequence. I don't know how many 100,000 times he finally did. It took years before one day he turned over the deck and it was the sequence, and that was one of Ripley's pages. Derek, thank you for being with us, and we'll love to have you back again in the future.
Thank you very much.
You take care. Give him a hand. Let us say goodbye to Derek. Goodbye, Derek. Thank you, sir. Oh, Cameron, interesting. Come on with me, Cameron. Come on out here. I want you to just join me. I know a lot of people, and, you know, you can comment on what we see around us. A lot of people, we won't sit down right now, Cameron, but you remember before, and we can point out as response happens that, by the way, I do not use stooges. People don't just play games with me. But I started something earlier. No, I don't. I started something earlier. Look. We can start observing, you know, and one of the strangest things in our culture, and I'm talking about our audience, because you and I can look at this almost from an intellectual point, is the almost inescapable feeling of itchiness when you see people. Now, you started sneezing, ma'am. Do you have are allergic to something in any way? Yes or no? Are you allergic? Yes or no? She does, and yet she responded by sneezing. And if we look at our audience here, there are people all over the place. How many of you now feel itchy? Raise your hand quickly. God, sir, would you come down here real quick? Gentlemen at the end, come down here, right at the end. And the third gentleman, come down here. The two of you, come down real quick.
The two with the orange ties.
You know, are you together? Do you know each other? Do you know each other? Well, come on down real fast. Oh, look at the gal there yawning. Man, come down here. You can't stop yourself from yawning, can you? Sit here, sir, if you will, right here. What's your name? Jim, I'm going to have you stand in. What's your name?
Sandy.
Sandy. Come over here. What's your name, sir?
Peter.
Peter, sit here, Jim, and Peter, you sit over there. I'm going to have Sandy. You can't. What's the matter? You just can't. It's hard to stop yawning, isn't it? Jim, what do you like? Do you feel kind of itchy, Jim?
Yeah.
Is it Jim? Don't help him anyway. No, excuse me, sir. Do you feel itchy a little bit? I'm going to show you something. Hold this for a second, camera. I'm going to give you something very, very fascinating. This is a ticklish thing if you hold your hand out. I mean, some people are... Does this not tickle you a little bit there? It does it, Jim? Is it Jim? What is your name, sir?
Peter.
Peter, does it kind of tickle you a little bit there?
Yes.
How many of you are tickled a little bit by feathers? Raise your hands from time to time. Well, folks, you watch me because I tickled you on the neck and I tickled you in the palm of the hand, and all I'm going to do is that, like that on my hand. What's the matter? What's the matter, Jim? Tell me, Jim, what's the matter? Jim, tell me what's the matter. It's tickling you, see it? Jim, what's your name, Peter?
Peter.
How many of you are ticklish if someone touches you on the neck? Raise your hand in the audience. And I'm sure, Jim, your name as well, and Peter, it can happen to you folks too. But it's the craziest, it is the craziest thing. It really, it's a very interesting phenomenon. What's the matter? You want me to stop? Wait a minute. I'm going to have you, I would hate to tell you, by the way, be level with me. Don't play games. Did you honestly feel ticklish there?
Yeah.
What did it feel like?
I don't know. I felt like somebody was tickling me or my tie
Yeah,
was too tight.
your tie was too tight. You know, could you imagine a feather going through your shoe? It really couldn't, could it? Does it seem possible that it could? Because I'm going to show you something here. I'm just doing the bottom of my shoe like this, and it's my left shoe. And I'll tell you, it is my left shoe. I'm really doing the bottom of the left shoe. And I want to tell you something. Pardon me, that's enough. I really don't know if it's like it's going through the shoe there, and it really is. Listen, I'm going to ask you folks to maybe sit in the aisle here. One of you sit down here. Just not take a little bit of time. One of you go one step up like that. I know what you folks could think. How many of you have been feeling itchy and ticklish? Raise your hands. How many in the audience felt some itchiness? Raise your hands. How many? Raise your hands, those of you that did. Raise your hands. I know. Stay right there. Maybe sit one step further. The point is, you know, you could say it was wires in the air. It could have been a kind of itching powder. But all I can say, Cameron, is, and this is a fascinating thing, shows you the power of an idea. There could certainly not be anything attached to your chairs. And after all, what I'm doing is this. And all I am doing is that, literally, folks, all I'm doing is that, and it literally is an inescapable, what's the matter, sir? You want to sit down there? You'd rather not sit there? Well, you'd rather watch there? Change places with him. You sit over there, sir. Why don't you change places with the gal in the aisle there? Just change real quick, please. We're going to go off the air now because, of course, it wasn't itching powder, and and I've said my goodbyes, but yet the power of the mind is absolutely uncontrollable because all I'm doing, folks, I'm going to say goodbye, and folks, keep laughing whatever you do.
Guests of the amazing Kreskin stay at the beautiful Ramadas in Toronto, 2 of 700 Ramada inns around the world.